Hi, I'm Charlene Laney, co-founder of Newmaker Financial and certified financial planner. Today is part 2 of our 3-part series talking with Anna Burr about pet trust. As a reminder, Anna Burr is an estate planning attorney here in the Denver metro area. And today is the second part of this topic. So we want to dive more into the details about pet trusts. And I'd love if you could share with us, are there different types of pet trusts? And if so, how would I know which one is right for me?
So the answer to that question is yes and no. There are different types of trusts, and so by extension, those are different types of pet trusts. But it more so just goes back to how you might form a trust generally. There are really 3 main kinds of trusts. The first is an irrevocable trust, which acts as kind of an asset shelter. So it's a way for somebody to protect their assets away from themselves. And there might be a number of reasons that somebody would want to set one of those up. It
Okay.
could be literally to protect themselves from themselves if they don't feel like they can manage their money properly.
Okay.
It could be done for tax purposes, or it could be done in order to qualify for certain other types of benefits that somebody may want depending on the stage in their life. So that's an irrevocable trust. A
Okay.
revocable trust is where somebody still maintains total access to all of their assets, and it just provides a legal mechanism for your assets to pass after your death, but outside of probate. In my revocable trust, I might leave most of my money and my assets to my spouse and my children, and then I would set aside some of that money for my beloved dog. So you would create the pet trust within that.
Okay.
And then the third main type of trust is a testamentary trust, which is not quite a trust, but what it does is it goes into your will so that again, after you've died, then you've earmarked that little bit of money or whatever it is to go towards your pet or your animal at that time.
Wonderful.
How you choose which type to set up really depends on what's going on with your estate as a whole. That's part of the conversation that we have with our potential clients is what are we looking at? Who are your people or your animals, as the case is?
Right.
And what do you want to see happen with those things? And then we craft the documents and the different form of trust depending on what's going to be the best approach for your situation in its entirety.
Okay, that makes sense. And thank you for the breakdown. Just as a recap to make sure we heard you. Type 1 for different types of trust is an irrevocable trust. So a trust where the investments or the assets are managed away from you. There's some limited access there with an irrevocable trust. And then there's a revocable trust, one that can be changed. You as the trustee or the owner of the trust are going to be able to make changes to that trust during your lifetime if you wanted to. But it's essentially like, it sounds like it's more like an upgraded will because it is something that allows your assets to pass outside of probate. And of course, correct me with anything I'm saying here. Third one being a testamentary trust, which is a trust that only gets created after your passing.
Correct.
Is that all right?
And the
Okay.
nice thing, I'll just throw in there really quickly, a testamentary trust could be a really good vehicle for a pet trust in particular, because
Okay.
it takes sort of a wait and see approach. So if I create this testamentary trust for my dog's name is Kona. So I'm going to create a testamentary trust for Kona. But if at the time that I'm gone, Kona has also already passed, then that trust just doesn't get created and it sort of goes away all by itself.
Ah, okay. I didn't realize that it could work that way, but that makes a lot of sense why a more robust conversation is required with an estate planning attorney like you on who are the important players in your life, whether they be people or pets or a combination of the two, and how do we properly honor your wishes based on those things? Because it could be one of the 3 different types of trust, or maybe even multiple. We don't
Right.
know. Okay, so if I were to set up a pet trust myself for my family and my cat, whose name is Mojave, we call her Momo. She is very needy and she loves to be cuddled. But if I wanted to set up something for Momo, what are the primary considerations for a pet trust or things that I would maybe want to know ahead of time before setting it up?
Specificity is very, very important in creating a pet trust. The idea of the pet trust is really that everybody who is involved has to be conscious about carrying out what the trust maker's intent was. And so the more detail can be provided in those documents, the easier it is for those people to do that.
Sure.
The other Another big consideration with a pet trust is that we're talking about animals, right? I mean, they can't ask questions or raise issues. And so it's probably wise in creating a pet trust to have two different people involved. One person who's the caretaker for the animal and the other who is managing the money. If we're talking about a very large pet trust, something crazy with a significant amount of money in it,
Right.
who's to say that Momo doesn't want me to buy a yacht with this money so that I can take your sweet cat
Right.
out on the ocean? I mean, again, that's an extreme example, but it provides an illustration as to how things could really be mismanaged with this kind of trust, because unless there's a system of checks and balances built into it.
That is such a great point because animals cannot speak for themselves. They can't answer your clarifying questions. And in a worst case scenario, we could have people with not so great intentions managing my estate for Momo or yours for Kona.
Right.
So thank you for that information here, Anna Burr. Folks, if you've been watching, if you haven't yet watched our last video from last week, we talk about the basics of pet trust, so please catch up there. And again, if you haven't yet liked, shared, and subscribed to this channel, please do. We'll have more information for you on pet trusts and taxes next week. And for more information about Anna Burr, to contact her about all your questions on trusts and estates and even a pet trust for yourself, her information is down below in the description. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.